Let's hit one of the big topics, overthinking. Let's talk about how to stop procrastinating and take action. As I keep talking about in this course, when it comes to overthinking, it's again a delay tactic. Overthinking feels like considering things for good reasons, but what it really eventuates to is a delay on taking action. And that's the whole point of it. Overthinking is not about trying to create the right answer. It's not about trying to come to a good decision. It's trying to prevent a decision from being made. And once you see that that's what it is, it won't sound so rational to you in your head anymore. So if we got thinking and we've got overthinking, obviously there's a line. There's some point where you cross from thinking enough to thinking too much. Thinking enough is whatever amount of thinking is required to come to a reasonably good decision on what action to take next. Overthinking is any further thinking that takes place after that moment. Overthinking is when you know enough to try something, but then you keep considering or reconsidering options. Sometimes you might think of it as double thinking, which is actually you review the same thoughts you've already looked at. You look over the same data you've already reviewed. And it's this self-doubt idea that you've missed something important, this worry that you don't have enough information, even though you've looked at all the information you do have. And so you go back to the start of the folder and start flipping through all the pages again. That's definitely overthinking. Some of you will already be familiar with my 3X model. For those of you who aren't, the very concise version of it is you go from thinking to action to reflection or measurement, and then back to thinking. And you always try to go around and around and around. You never stay in any one of these stages for too long, and you don't break the model by jumping over a stage. Overthinking is like going from thinking to reflection without action in between. So you think, and then you reflect on your thinking. You might imagine what could happen, and then you imagine what would happen if that did happen, and now you're just reflecting on your imagination rather than reflecting on action that actually took place. You're reflecting on the results you think might happen rather than results that actually did happen. Or you just had all your thinking and then you go over your thinking again. You're now reflecting on thinking itself. You're thinking about thinking. No wonder we call it overthinking. Making a decision looks like this. You think enough to come to a reasonable conclusion about some of the available options in terms of action, in terms of behavior. You then cut those options down to one. Even if it's kind of an arbitrary choice, you make sure there's only one, and then you move into physical behavior that reflects that one. And that's where you transition from thinking to action. This might sound a bit patronizing, like you already know this. But if you're an overthinker, then maybe you don't know this. Maybe you don't realize that making a decision means action follows, not you keep thinking. If you keep thinking, then you haven't made a decision. The key here, and I'll cut the sort of foreplay, small action. That is the cure to overthinking. Any small action where you go from thinking, you cross the decision line into physical behavior. It doesn't matter how long that behavior takes, doesn't matter what the results are, doesn't matter if it's even really that relevant to what you're thinking about. When you move from your mind but into the world, you have broken overthinking. You're moving through the 3X model. You've given yourself something real to reflect on. Now, those results might not be what you wanted. There might not be much of them, but you'd be measuring something that actually happened rather than something you imagined. And so you're flowing through the model. And you can achieve great things with just tiny, small actions where you just keep flowing round and around and around. So again, a single, small, manageable, reasonable behavior is the way to break overthinking. You never need to overthink ever again. So long as you give yourself permission to do something small, it can be something safe, it just has to be something. Notice the delay tactic. Notice that overthinking does not lead to conclusive, progressive action. It just delays your progress, slows you down, breaks momentum, drags things out. Overthinking pretends to be your friend. It calls itself planning, right? It calls itself being careful. But if it was really helpful, you would be making lots of physical progress. The fact that you're not tells you that this overthinking is a saboteur. It's not really your friend. It's not really trying to help. It is another delay tactic. Notice that you'll often think about things which you've really got no real data on, no experience. Let's say you're thinking about your first step to try something new. And you think about all the ways it could go wrong and all the things that would be the right way to do it. What information are you reviewing? It's certainly not wisdom. It's certainly not experience. It's certainly not like trial and error results because you don't have any of that. If it's something new, you don't have any information on it. You just have made up stuff in your brain. So your thinking and planning is really just fiction. Let's say you want to go to a salsa dance class, never been before, and you think, oh, what if I show up and I'm embarrassed to be there? I don't even know what I'm supposed to wear. What if the people aren't really my type of people? What if there's no girls there? It feels like you're like planning for all these eventualities, and yet you've never been to a dance class. So you actually have no idea what it's going to be like. You don't even know what the colors of the walls are going to be. So what are you thinking about? You have so little information about this dance class that the only reasonable conclusion to come to is I need to at least step through the door of the dance class to get more information. I can't think any further than that. The right amount of thinking is noticing the limit of your knowledge and going, okay, further actions required to get more knowledge. See, action brings us knowledge. Going out in the world, causing an effect, having results, getting feedback, reviewing those results, learning from them, that's how we grow wisdom. That's how we get better at something. Sitting there thinking about information you don't have is nothing but mental masturbation. There's no progress being made there. It's a fantasy land based on nothing. It's not even like you've got a lot of experience and you're imagining all the things that could go wrong because you've experienced all those things going wrong. That's planning. Like if you're playing chess and you're a master chess player and you're imagining all the ways the guys might try to checkmate you, that's not fantasy worrying. That comes from experience. You're planning your next move, and all chess players will actually make a move. They won't just sit there frozen pretending to play chess. Overthinking is more like you've never played chess before and you're imagining being embarrassed by being beaten by somebody at the chess club and you're not sure if you could really handle it. You've never even picked up the little horsey yet. Asking for wisdom from an inexperienced brain is like asking someone who doesn't speak your language to edit your novel. There's nothing for you in there. There's no wisdom, there's no intelligence in there to help you make a decision. You have to get out in the world and get it wrong. One way you can practice the 3x cycle is what I'd call the 30-second rule. You set a timer, you got 30 seconds to think of the action to take. At the end of that timer, you must do something, but you only have to do it for 30 seconds. You do the thing for 30 seconds, and then you stop, and for 30 seconds, all you do is review what it was like to take that action. How did it feel? What did you learn from it? How did the results go? And then you think again, okay, and based on that, what's my next move? And you give yourself another 30 seconds. You can do this with something mundane like washing the dishes. You could be like, okay, 30 seconds to think about how I'm going to wash the dishes. Set the time. Okay, 30 seconds is up, got to start washing dishes now. So you start washing them, but then you stop after 30 seconds, go, okay, how's this going? Is this a good way to wash dishes? Have I learned anything? And then you think again. It's good to train yourself with like safe, mundane tasks so that you kind of build this mental muscle for when it comes to higher stakes, unfamiliar stuff. You could do it with exercise. Most of you who go to the gym or exercise, you'll have these plans that you follow, routines, and so on. Try doing it freestyle. Go there and think, okay, 30 seconds to think about what part of my body I should work out or what exercise I should do, what machine I should use. 30 seconds. If 30 seconds is up, you got to do something. All right. If you're not sure, do some push-ups, like you got to do something. And then you just do that thing for 30 seconds and you stop and you sort of check out how your body feels, what sort of information you got from doing that, what ideas start to occur to you as to where this might lead, and then you think again of your next exercise. And do a whole workout like that. You might end up doing all this random stuff. You might be like, you know what, I've never tried the pull-up bar before. Oh, okay, try that. This idea where you just sort of train yourself to make more spontaneous decisions, but with very limited time frame. One thing I'd suggest is in almost any situation, unless you're a master of the topic, if you've been thinking for more than 5 minutes about what to do next, you're definitely overthinking. There are very few situations where 5 minutes of thinking isn't enough time to review all the information. All right, playing chess, that sometimes takes a bit longer than 5 minutes, but then only the masters need more than 5 minutes, okay? The newbies don't have enough information to think about chess moves for more than 5 minutes. If you're going to start your new business, thinking of the first move you should make doesn't need to take more than 5 minutes. If you've been in business for 10 years and you're considering $1 million contract, yeah, you might take more than 5 minutes to think that through. But you'll be reviewing experience and wisdom, not made up fiction. So you can be relatively sure if you're scared of something and it's new and unfamiliar, 5 minutes is more than enough to choose an action. In fact, it's probably too much. So when that 5 minutes is up, do anything to break the pattern. There's basically two types of action you can always take. One is something that moves you towards the goal. So something relevant to what you are thinking about. So if you're thinking about various exercise things, some form of exercise, some form of movement. If you're thinking about various social things, talking to someone, engaging socially in some way. If you're thinking about various business things, something to do with clients or marketing or your website, anything, right? But let's say you either can't come to a decision at all, or the options available to you are just too terrifying. You just don't have it in you right here and now to do any of them. You're frozen. Then do some other kind of action, right? Do something totally not relevant. You got stuck in your business, go do some exercise. Too scared to go to the gym, go talk to somebody. Like, do anything healthy in general to make sure that at the very least, you never do overthinking. You always shift into some sort of progressive, productive action. You never spend too much time in here delaying some sort of progress on your life. You could even spend a few minutes coming up with a list of like safe, healthy activities that you could do pretty much anywhere, anytime. Drop and do some push-ups, make yourself a smoothie, call a good friend, write some more of your article, like things that you'd feel safe and comfortable doing at any time that you know are healthy and good for you. Kind of have them in your back pocket that if you're ever stuck in overthinking, you just have to ditch whatever you're thinking about and do one of these actions and like just break the pattern. If you've ever watched the show MasterChef or similar shows, one of the common components of it is a time limit. So all of these chefs, regardless of the challenge, they always have this time limit. So they don't have enough time to overthink what they're going to do. And it creates amazing dishes of food. And it kind of proves that if you give yourself a limit on how much planning and thinking you can do, there's a kind of perfect amount that allows for the best to come out. And anything after that, you start to get diminishing returns. Any further thinking makes you just more confused, less sure of yourself, and so on. So, in some way or another, I highly challenge you to start giving yourself time delays for making decisions. And you can always give yourself this pressure, in a way, healthy pressure, which is if you can't come to a conclusion at the end of the time limit, then you are default quitting whatever it is. Let's say you're planning a holiday and you can't choose a hotel, you got these three and you just can't choose between them, cancel the holiday. Right? Make it either choose a hotel or cancel the holiday. That's now all that's available. And if the time limit clicks bang, then you have to cancel the holiday. So either like click save on the hotel or you cancel the holiday. So it's not even a decision. You've got this kind of death looming up of like the cancellation of whatever it is you're doing, the giving up completely of whatever you're doing, at least for today. So that you're just never allowed to overthink.